Hi Year 8, welcome back to our lesson 6 of our weather and climate topic. Today's lesson is called Low Pressure Weather Systems, and this links with the lesson we did on high pressure weather systems. So what we're going to look at then is the differences between high and low weather systems and what weather low pressure brings. So our key terms for today are low pressure. This is when air is rising, and as it rises it cools and condenses, causing high levels of precipitation. And a depression. Now this is what we call a weather system with low pressure at its centre. Okay, so let's get straight onto it today. In front of you, you can see a weather map, and this shows the features of a low pressure system across the UK, and this is in the summer. You've got a key and it tells you what those symbols are for. Now remember, this is really similar to the map we looked at when we did high pressure. So what I want you to do, using figure 2 and your own understanding, so link back to the high pressure lesson, can you describe the weather conditions associated with low pressure system? So you're going to look at those symbols and you're going to tell me what weather do you get at low pressure systems. Give yourself about 5 minutes. Okay, so I want you to get your green pens out and we can go through this. So you would have noticed that it is very cloudy in the UK at this time. If you see here, that circular symbol is completely covered, completely filled in, and that links with the symbol in the key, where the sky is fully covered by cloud. So these 3 locations here in the UK are completely covered with cloud. If you mentioned this one over here, it's not in the UK. That is in Southern Ireland, the southwest of Ireland there. So if you did say that, you needed to have put in the Southern Ireland because it's not the UK. And there you would have said that it's half covered by cloud. Okay, you can see these little dots here next to the cloud cover represent rain. So you would say that low pressure brings rain. There. Okay, so look, and also the temperatures range between 5 and 12 degrees, so it's not warm at all. And so low pressure brings quite cold weather and temperatures. And then if we look down here, right down in the southwest, so this one down here, we can see that it is the most windy. Yeah, because this wind symbol has the most feathers on it. Now if you remember from the high pressure lesson we did, we looked at how windy it would be looking at that symbol. So if we have a look at this example here, this is one we used for our high pressure lesson. And we looked at the one here, this weather symbol with the 2 prongs where it goes like that, and we figured out that would be about 15 degrees. Oh, sorry, 15 miles per hour. Getting a bit confused there. So 15 miles per hour. Yeah? Can't really write it on there. mph. There we go. 15 miles per hour. And that's what the 2-pronged wind symbol would be. So how much do you reckon it would be here? So we've got, it looks like this down here. We've got 1, 2, 3, and a small one. So if 2 prongs are 15, how much would it be for there? So we go 15. What's half of 15? Yeah. And then what would you say is half of half? So that would be, so you've got 15, and then half of 15 is 7.5, isn't it? So you would say about 7.5 or plus 7. And then what's half of 7? 3.5, so let's just say 3. So how much would that be? Yeah, so it would be 25. So you'd say the speed down there would be about 25 miles per hour. You didn't have to do that, but just some of you that were thinking back to last lesson when we did high pressure, you'll remember that symbol. So down here on the southwest coast, it was about 25 miles per hour. Okay, so in front of you, you've got two figures and they show the types of weather that you get that are associated with low pressure. So figure 3 is low pressure in the summer. So here you can see it links really nicely with the map that we've just looked at, where it's got, you know, complete cloud cover. You know, the cloud is completely covered, the sky is completely covered with cloud. It's got to be windy because that's what's making the waves crash up like that. And it could be raining quite heavily as well. So that will link really nicely with that map we just saw. Okay, and that's in the summer. But low pressure in the winter would usually bring something like this. Okay, so lots of cloud cover again, quite windy and very cold. And the precipitation here would be snow, but also we do get heavy rain in the winter as well. But that's the sort of thing that you'll see in the UK due to low pressure. So if we were going to look at a depression on a satellite image, this is what we would see. Now it's very easy for weather people or meteorologists to see when we are going to get a depression, and therefore they can tell people in advance when it's going to happen, because you can see here they are quite visible, this swirl here, and you can see that. So here it's really easy because you can see one front on this side of the swirl and another front on that side of it, and this is what is called the low pressure. And you can see this one, this is huge. This one actually would be really visible on a satellite image, because you can see here, look, this one goes right down to sort of like the northern part of Spain, and it stretches right up to about here, which is north of Scotland. So this is quite a large depression, which makes it really easy for people to see. All right, so this is what we're going to do now. I want you to get a pencil out and a ruler if you need one, and we're going to draw a diagram for low pressure. Now last lesson, when we did high pressure, you drew that diagram. So we don't need to do that one now, so you can just ignore that there. So we're going to focus on this one. Now, if we look back at our key terms from the start of the lesson, we saw that low pressure is when air rises. So when warm air rises, and as it rises, it condenses and cools and then forms clouds. And as it rises, it's obviously evaporating lots of moisture, and that moisture turns into a gas, and then as it gets colder, it turns slowly back into a liquid, which we call condensation. And then as the clouds get heavier with all the water droplets, then it will release them as rain or as precipitation. So I want you to draw that diagram there and then have a look at these key terms. So first of all, warm air begins to rise. So warm air rises from the ground and goes up into the atmosphere. So as it rises, it gets colder, and we looked at this before. With altitude, the temperature cools down. And remember, every 100 meters up, it cools down by 1 degree. So as the air rises, then it cools. And then the moisture that is trapped in that air starts to condense to form clouds. And then this creates a low pressure system known as a depression.
Our weather is in a state of constant motion. Sudden changes are hard to predict. In January 1998, on the south coast of Britain, the change in the weather was dramatic.
Coastal areas continued to bear the brunt of the severe storms, crashing waves battering much of the south and west of England with winds gusting to over 100 miles per hour.
While the majority of people were taken by surprise by the storms, the Coast Guards at Falmouth were ready. Out in the Atlantic, a Spanish fishing boat, the Sonia Nancy, was struggling in the deteriorating weather.
We're getting reports that a Spanish trawler with 10 people on board is sinking in the Bay of Biscay. The vessel is said to be 200 miles southwest of Land's End. Falmouth Coast Guard.
The Coast Guards knew that the conditions were likely to get worse. By studying their weather charts, they could see that storms were on the way. Their charts show atmospheric pressure. The lines on the charts are isobars, lines that join up points of the same atmospheric pressure. Each line on the chart represents a different level of pressure. The pressure is measured in millibars. The lower the millibar reading, the lower the pressure. The difference in pressure is caused by the moving molecules in the air. When the air is cold, the molecules are packed tightly together. The air becomes denser and begins to sink. The air now presses on the Earth's surface, bringing high pressure. When the air warms, the molecules fly further apart. The air becomes lighter and rises, creating low pressure on the ground. When there's high pressure, the weather is usually fine. But when there's low pressure, the rising air draws up water that forms clouds, rain and storms. What the Coast Guard saw was a massive area of this unstable low pressure travelling over the Atlantic, the kind of weather that brings storms. But how was this low pressure causing the storm? Denser air always wants to move into the spaces created by lighter air. If we now look at the chart for that day, we see that at the centre of the isobar pattern, the pressure is much lower than at the edges. The air wants to spiral into the less dense region in the centre. We call this movement of air wind. Winds are nature's way of balancing out differences in pressure.
Alright, so here is your activity. I want you to draw out this table in your book or on your page or on your laptop. This table here. So you've got two columns. The first column is the advantages of low pressure systems, and the second one is the disadvantages of low pressure systems. So I want you to read each of these 9 statements in the boxes there. I want you to sort them out. So you don't have to write them out, you can just write 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. in the right column. Then what I would like you to do is choose a few of them, maybe three minimum, and I want you to explain how these points are advantages or disadvantages. So for example, number 1, it says damage to property due to high winds. Meaning what? Is that an advantage or a disadvantage? Tell me why. Give yourself about 15 minutes. Okay, so on your screen now you can see your answers, so just get your green pen and give yourself a tick or correct them. Okay, so here is your extended written task. What you need to do is write a letter to a friend about either a low pressure event in the summer or the winter. You can choose. And I want you to explain how it has come about and the potential advantages and disadvantages of the event. So you're basically going to write down the cause of low pressure. Why and how do we get low pressure? I want you then to describe 2 features of low pressure in the summer here or in the winter here. I want you to give me 2 explained advantages. So this is just back to what you've just done with those statements. So what are 2 advantages? And explain that by a chain of reason. And then what are 2 disadvantages? Explain that again with a chain of reason. So here we go. This is an example, so let's just read through it now. It says here, "Dear friend, I am writing to you from the UK on a miserable day in the middle of July. We are experiencing low pressure, which is known as a depression. This is caused by air rising, which cools as it rises. It then condenses, which causes clouds to form and heavy rainfall. So, the weather today has not been great. We have had strong winds and a lot of rain. Great for farmers, as the extra rainfall should help their crops grow, meaning greater yields. However, some places may flood by the end of the day, and we have decided to not go to the seaside and instead stay in. The forecast says the low pressure should be for around 24 hours, and then we will see high pressure move in. Can't wait." So, let's then link this to the success criteria. So first of all, in the first paragraph, they have well explained the cause. In the second paragraph, they've said the feature that they get, which is strong winds and a lot of rain. That's great. And they've given a point, an advantage for the extra rainfall and how that would help farmers with their yields, but it's not a chain of reason. They haven't said why. Next, they've given a point that it may flood, and they've also said that they can't go to the seaside, but they have not then explained that. So overall, the cause was explained well in the first paragraph. The weather was described well. Only one advantage was given, and this was not in a chain of reason. For example, what will higher yields mean? 2 disadvantages were given, but they were not developed. Therefore, this was not meeting the success criteria. So, follow the success criteria really well and write at least one side of A4. Okay guys, good luck.
So now is your opportunity to complete this extended task. You will have to submit all of today's work to your teacher, and you should have been given some instructions regarding how you will do that. If you're unsure about how to submit work, please keep hold of your work until you have been given the instructions. When completing this task, please make sure that if you do get stuck, that you do go back to the earlier parts of the lesson to re-listen to any explanations that you may need to hear again. You may also want to revisit the student response so that you can see those areas of strengths and weakness, and maybe those areas of weaknesses from my explanation you'll be able to develop and make areas of strength in your own work. This is the part of the lesson where I will leave you. I will see you again in lesson 7. Good luck with this task. You will want to pause the screen now to complete the work.